Hey guys, Luke here, and we are back! Yes, we are back after what must be, over a year of waiting. I've been looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys have been looking forward to it. But yes, we are back with the Promised Neverland reviews. So we are here at chapter 100. But honestly, I never thought that the series would get this far, but we have come a long way from that chapter where it just shocked the world, and it was just so different from any shonen series that we had seen at that moment in time in Jump. Bleach had just ended, so that was another one of the big three that had ended, and personally, going on with that issue, my own personal big three at the moment are Promised Neverland, Dr. Stone, and We Never Learn. The reason why those are my big three is because they're the series that I've read continuously from the beginning to where they are right now, and I feel like they give a perfect balance. We have a horror thriller, we have a sci-fi adventure, and we have a romantic comedy. I feel like those series give a nice balance, so that I'm not just down in one particular genre. But anyway, let's get to this. This is the new area where I'll be doing the reviews, and this will be happening from every week from now on. We'll be getting into it, so let's get going. Alright, so this will be chapter 100 entitled Arrival, which is very appropriate because we've arrived at a new, new beginning for the series. We've arrived at chapter 100, so it's kind of like this chapter is sort of like going back to basics in a sense that we don't really focus on Emma and the kids that much. We focus on kids from the orphanages. With that said, we open up with Phil! We open up with little Phil right here. He's pretty much the MVP of this chapter. It's sort of like catching up with what they're doing because we haven't seen him in a while. But anyway, Phil is sort of like doing a letter in his mind to Emma and just asking how she's doing, because as we'll see right here, we see that Phil, he's been taken to a new orphanage, and he's hanging out with all his new siblings, and it's showing just how much he's adapted to his new life. This is very appropriate because, like I said, we need some leverage. Because we have so many characters now. We have characters being introduced left, right, and centre, that we need sort of like characters to be the focus on at certain points in the story. And I feel like this is a more appropriate time. Like I said, we're entering a new era of the story, so it's appropriate that we get catch-ups and find out what's going on here. And we get a title page which shows right here. Which shows Phil being very much small fry in a big world, which is very metaphorical of the status that he's in, because he's still very young. Phil is still a very young boy, and and the past 2 months, as he explains, it's been 2 months since Emma, Ray, and all the other kids left, and he's been opening up to this huge wide world, this world that's even bigger than he could imagine, and the title page clearly represents this. So anyway, Phil goes on to explain how it's been 2 months and he's sort of like growing and adapting. He's sort of like becoming the older sibling to all the little ones. Sort of like he's filling Emma and Ray's role and feeling that responsibility, which just shows just how mature he's actually becoming, because as he states right here, he states that his grades have been improving, which shows just how much Emma and Ray and Norman rubbed off on him. And we see right here, we see Carol, like we see Carol that she's starting to develop words, but all she can say is like Phil with like a lisp, like a little child's lisp. But Carol, in case you've forgotten, guys, she appeared in chapter 7 with Crone, and it was sort of like she was used as like a way to kind of like struggle with Emma and Norman's dilemma, that there were siblings that they just could not take with them, and deep down they knew that, and but no matter what, they still were precedent of the fact that they could possibly do it. But Carol was brought in to be sort of like a impetus to say, no, you are not escaping, because we are going to bring this in for you. But interesting about Carol is that she started to grow a little bit of hair in the same style as Emma. It's like, I'll put the 2 images up here, like here, right here. You can see that Emma has sort of like the curly wavy hair, and so does Carol. So it makes me think like, in the same way that Ray and Isabella were related, and we'll get into Isabella in a bit, because there's something that I'm not really, that I'm really unsure of when in regards to Isabella. But yeah, in terms of Emma and Carol, it seems like they have a similar style hair. Now, I'm not sure if this is intentional of where they're actually going with those two characters. They are actually related, like Emma's mother, which I'm pretty sure we are going to find out that Emma and Ray's like full parentage. I'm pretty sure we're going to find out about them. We know who Ray's mother is, which is Isabella, but I'm pretty sure we're going to find out who his father is in the same way with Emma and her mum and dad. I'm pretty sure we're going to find out what they're all about and if Carol is actually related to Emma in the sense that they are properly related. Anyway, Phil goes on to say that Eugene, Charlie and another character that I can't pronounce the name. I've tried for ages to pronounce his name, but it's right here. I can't pronounce this name that begins with I, but that's not a worry. It mentions that them lot went to the same orphanage as each other, but as for the others, he doesn't know where they've actually gone, and we get an explanation of what happened. It's like after the fire, after the Gracefield house was destroyed, basically, all the siblings, like Ray, Phil, Charlie, Eugene, and Carol, they all went to an orphanage, and the other kids went to another orphanage, so they're kind of spread out at the moment, which is going to make the rescue a lot more difficult, because if after this arc we get into the rescue of all the kids and the liberation of all the farms, it's going to be a little more difficult, because now they're not going to know which farms the kids have actually sent to, and there's going to be like even more security and set up, and I feel like this is where we're going to learn about just how much more advanced the demons are, and much more prepared. So like if Emma and Ray and the other kids do actually go back to the farms, it's going to be a bit more grisly and a bit more unsure about what is actually meant to be going on here, because we don't know. We hardly know anything about the other farms. We know that there are 5 farms, and as Ray... sorry, I'm going to keep on getting the names mixed up, because Phil is sort of like becoming, like I said, the big sibling to all the little kids, so I might say them I might say Ray when I meant to say Phil. But anyway, no, I'm talking about Phil here, and he states that because Gracefield House is destroyed, they're all spread out into the other plantations around it. So like we've got 4 plantations, and I feel like we are going to visit all 4 of them, because that would be a disappointment to the series if we only knew about Gracefield and we didn't know about the other orphanages around them. So I feel like that's going to take a while. It's going to take a while for Emma to gather all the kids from all the different orphanages, if she can, and if all the other kids can, gather them all and get them into the human world. And it's not going to be pretty, it's not going to be safe, and it's going to certainly lead to a bunch of deaths, and that's what I'm gearing myself up for. I don't want any of the kids to die, but I know it's going to happen, because we need to have some deaths to hammer in how realistic and how much of a stretch and how much of an impossible task this task that they're going to go under is going to take. Anyway, Phil goes on to say that I don't know what happened tomorrow, which of course he's referring to Isabella. He has no idea where she went, and he never saw her again after the whole destruction of Gracefield House. Which, in my opinion, she's either 2 things. She's either dead or she's been demoted. I feel like the writers will go the demoted route, because I feel like Isabella is just too far. But like grandmother said when Crone was killed, Isabella is a vital pawn, so I feel like she's been demoted and she's been reduced to the role of a sister rather than a mother, and she's been kept a watchful eye on in case something happens with her. But I feel like Isabella is not dead, and I feel like we've got more to see from her at certain points in the series. But yeah, Phil states that he's got a new mama, which I'm pretty sure this one right here, pretty sure she is the mama that we saw when the sirens were going off, when the kids were escaping. I'm pretty sure she was the mama that we cut to when all the adults and all the demons were panicking that the kids were escaping. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say on Isabella, and I'm not done with her, because like with Carol and Emma, there's an image coming up here which I'm pretty sure is related to Isabella in some way. But anyway, Phil states that Jackie is sort of like the older one, so he's kind of like the Norman, and then we have Simon and Helena, which kind of fill the role of Ray and Emma, so like kind of like the older siblings, but Phil is the one that knows the most about the world and what's going on, and so he's kind of like the one that we're kind of rooting for at the moment, even though we know that we don't want any of the kids to die. We're kind of rooting for Phil to actually just step up and do something, but we know he actually can't at this moment in time. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, this image right here, this one, where he's talking about Simon, when Phil's talking about Simon, we see this image of this girl here off to the side with like a ponytail, black hair sort of thing, and that was the same sort of style that Isabella had when she was a child. Now, I'm not saying that that this girl and Isabella are related, but yeah, I kind of like this about the series, like they're putting these little Easter eggs that if you're smart enough you can spot it, and I will throw up an image right here of here's Isabella and here's the girl. Yeah, notice the similarities between those two, because I feel like they're going to play an important role later. She might actually be another child of Isabella. Like we don't know a child that we didn't actually see. We only knew about Ray because Ray was obviously one of the main characters of the series, so we kind of had to focus on him. But I feel like this may come into play later because she just looks so similar to Isabella when she was younger, and I don't think the writers, the writer and the artist of the series, because I know there's a writer and an artist of The Promised Neverland, I don't feel like they're gonna scratch on this detail right here. I feel like they're gonna really put it in the effort to put this Easter egg in and plant the seeds of speculation about who she actually is, because she does look very similar to Isabella. But of course, good things have to come to an end, and unfortunately for Simon, he's the one that draws the short straw. As the mama, we don't know her name, so we're just gonna have to refer to her as Blonde Mama. As Blonde Mama is getting Simon ready to be packed off, he's saying goodbye to everyone, and Phil's been in this position before, except he's in a different position right now. As we can see right here, we see that Phil is looking very distraught about it, because as we know, he knows what's out there. He knows that Simon is not coming back. He's dead and he's not coming back. And we know that Phil, as he goes along, as he continues to explain, like, I know what's out there, but there's nothing I can do about it. I have to put on a brave face for it. It just shows this is what I love about this series. How any other kid in any other series would be freaking out, would be crying, and would be very distraught about it. And he is very distraught about it. I'm not saying that Phil isn't distraught about it, but they would be like really getting very anxious about it and very upset about it, and basically blurting out what is happening. But he knows that he can't do that, because if he does that, then they're all screwed, and he's screwed in particular. So he's showing very mature for his age, even more so than Emma probably would have been at that age. And again, that's what I love about the series, how there's no dumb characters, but at the same time, Phil has to do a major sacrificial decision here. Like, he can't actually say anything, otherwise he'll blurt out the whole system, and then the whole system could go into chaos. Although that would have been interesting to see, like, what would have happened if Phil had actually just blurted out what was actually going on, if they knew like demons were going to attack the kids. Actually, come to think of it, he probably couldn't say anything, because the kids probably wouldn't have believed him. They probably would have just been like, oh Phil, you and your imagination, and then the mama would have taken him away to do something sinister to him, which might happen, as we'll get into later on in the chapter. It might have actually happened, and he might actually have been taken away somewhere at the end of this chapter. We don't know, because this chapter doesn't end with Phil. It just sort of cuts away, but that leaves us with clamping and wanting to know more about what's going to happen to these characters, and it just gets us so excited and leaves us on a cliffhanger. And like I said, Phil is just incredibly brave to be going through with what he's going through at the moment. Phil goes on to say that they don't know, in the sense that they don't know what is truly going on. And we cut to him and Jackie just sort of playing together, and Jackie's saying to Phil, what do you want to be when you grow up, Phil? I want to be. And we don't hear what Jackie has to say, and we don't hear what Phil has to say, because but you can tell from the look on his face in those images that he really wants to tell Jackie what is going on, but he thinks that Jackie won't just believe him. And I'm not saying that he probably won't believe him in the sense that he thinks he's being imaginative. I just feel like he thinks that he wouldn't believe Phil because they've not known each other for as long as Jackie's probably known the other kids. Because Jackie, from the looks of things, he looks like he's been in this particular orphanage. We don't know which orphanage he's in at the moment, but it looks like from the way that he's been presented and being built up, it's like he's been there as long as Emma, Ray and Norman were before all the crazy stuff happened at the end of the second story arc. And I feel like that's the reason why Phil just doesn't want to say it, is that Jackie won't believe him because they probably they haven't trusted each other. They trust each other, but not in the same level of trust like Emma, Ray and Norman had with each other and with the other kids. We get more of Phil's inner monologues as he's saying like, it's not a graduation, it's a harvest, and I know that Simon's not going to grow up, and I know I can't do anything. I want to tell him I can't do anything, but I can't tell him because then I can't save this family. And he wonders if this is how Ray feels, which is very good insight into the psychological aspects of a kid that has lived their whole lives thinking that they live on a nice orphanage with siblings that go out into the wide world and do all this and do all their dreams and everything, and then it's just taken away from them at the tender age of just 12. At the tender age of just 12, it's just taken away from them. And Phil is wondering the same thing that Ray's wondering, and it makes me wonder, like, when the kids actually do find out what's going on, and Phil tells them, which is probably going to happen. We know this is probably going to happen when Emma comes to save the kids with Ray and the others. We probably know that this is going to happen. And it's going to cause some serious doubt with the other kid and whether or not they can actually trust Phil because he's kept this secret from her. It's big secret, and it's going to make some interesting psychological Sorry, I'm trying to figure out the words. I'm trying to figure out how to say this without coming across so complicated. Psychological turmoil, that's the word I'm looking for, turmoil. Psychological turmoil and distrust, which I feel like is one of the major themes of The Promised Neverland, like trust and also psychological aspects are the main themes. And trust, once that trust is snapped, then it's going to be a psychological dilemma that they're all going to go through, and I feel like that's going to be played into play when we get into the arc where we actually have to rescue all the kids and bring them into human world. Anyway, Phil continues on with his imaginary letter to Emma asking, how are you doing? Are you eating well? Are you sick? Are you healthy? And we get another image of the girl that looks like Isabella, and again, that image that we just saw just adds more to my theory that Isabella and this girl are related because they just look so similar. She just looks so similar to Isabella as a child, and I just feel like if I get this right again, it's going to be another, oh yeah, I called it, and I'm going to be doing a dance if that actually happens. Anyway, as people notice very different aspects of Phil's character, including the mama who gives a look of, does Phil actually know? We cut to him sitting on a bed and him just being like, I want to see you again, I want to live, I don't want to die, I want to live. And he's going through that various aspects of it, aspects of psychological turmoil that Emma went through when Norman left. Emma went through this whole spiral out of control and just falling to utter despair, which Phil is going through, which again just shows how much of a strong-willed personality that Emma has passed on to Phil, and he has to be brave, he has to be the big man on campus, and for someone of that age to be this big man on campus, he's very much a strong-willed character like Emma, and I feel like I feel like this isn't the last we've seen of Phil. I feel like we are going to see more of him, and he's going to play a major role later on in the series. So anyway, Phil comes to the conclusion that no, he can't be like this because he made a promise to stay and wait for them, and that's what he's going to do, and he's going to stick to this gun through thick and thin. No matter how long it's going to take, he's going to stick through, and he's going to wait for Emma. And so he actually gets over it and puts on a brave face and says, no, I'm happy, everything's fine. But then that's when we get a sinister turn for this chapter where we see the mama, the blonde mama, announcing that we have a special guest arriving, and we see okay, we see Andrew again, and oh my god, like I said last time when I did the Song Jura Musica video, this guy is absolutely terrifying. And this is what I've wanted to see about this, if there's going to be an even more threatening villain than Lewis. And I feel like this guy is going to be a particular threat. Not in the sense that a threat that he could kill you immediately, a threat that he could do a psychological battle with you, like Isabella, like how Isabella was a threat, but she was different from Lewis being a threat. And I feel like Andrew's going to be on a similar level to that threat as Isabella. But yeah, this guy right here, absolutely terrifying, no question about it. And he comes to this orphanage, which, as we see right here, Phil is absolutely shocked. It's like, what? Which again is surprising, because this is the first time I think Phil has actually met another man outside of the orphanage, a grown man, which was just a surprise for Emma and Ray and the other kids when they met Hugo and saw that there was a grown man that survived. And it just shows that there's another complex and grey area to the world, and a lot more than Phil even himself could even imagine. Andrew asks Phil what his name is, and he responds, and Phil says Phil, but of course, if I was Phil, I'd be pissing my pants with fear right now. And then we see that Andrew wants to discuss something with Phil, which again just adds to what is actually going to go on with these two, and if Phil is going to go to the same area as Norman's going to go to. Kind of like when Norman was taken away by Peter Rafari, I feel like Andrew's going to do the same for Phil, and he's going to discuss something with him, and they're going to meet. We're going to have Norman and Phil together, and then we're going to have them be rescued, and Emma find out about what's gone on, what's happened to Gracefield House, where all the kids have gone. They've gone to different plantations, they have to get them out. But I feel like Andrew, because he's just so mysterious at the moment, we don't know much about him, but I feel like he is going to be the major threat moving forward, before we actually get into the bigger threats of the Demon Lord, the actual demons, the actual hierarchical structure of the demons, and of course Peter Rafari and Grandma. I know Andrew, I said Andrew, I wanted him to be my one of my new favourite characters, and I feel like he is, because he is threatening. Just from these images that we've seen of him, he is threatening, and he has a little quirk of him tapping, sort of like how Lungay in Inspector Lungay in Monster was threatening. He was a threat to Dr. Temmer, but he had the same kind of quirk of tapping his fingers as Andrew does here, which I feel like is him. Like Lungay used that as a way to process information into his brain, like his brain was his hard drive, so he used his hands to sort of like he was typing out something, and I feel like Andrew's going to have a similar quirk to that, and I feel like that's how he's going to be as much of a threat, if not more, than Lewis was. But anyway, that's the last we see of Phil and the orphanage and Andrew of this chapter. But it took up most of the chapter, and I feel like it really was a nice change of pace. Like, we need to find out exactly what the kids in the orphanage were going through, what had happened to the kids, where they'd all gone, and what's going to happen next for the characters. But anyway, we can't wait to see where Emma's group is going on, and we see that Don and Gilda are saying, like, there's probably a river ahead. According to the map, there's probably a river ahead, and we see that. Who was it? We see Sack. Yeah, it's Sack. Was like, you can tell where our position is just by not mentioning the map. And they say, no, we memorised it. And then this leaves Sack completely stunned. Like, they memorised it when Gilda says that Ray asked them to memorise it. So they memorised all the maps from an ancient book that they were reading before they set off on their journey. And it just shows how much we've, like the kids in the orphanage, we underestimate Don and Gilda, and how valuable they've become to the team, because they have really good photographic memories, just like Emma and Ray and Norman did, but they probably weren't on the same level of intelligence as them three, as we stayed, but they're probably getting up there. And for them to memorise maps, like, in the space of a few days, it's just very impressive, and it shows just how valuable these two are going to be in the upcoming arcs. And I feel like after we've not focused on them for the Goldie Pond arc, it's nice to get back to them and remind them just why they were a valuable asset to the first couple of arcs. Anyway, Ray brushes this off and says, compared to the day test, this was a singe. And they had, obviously, Emma, Don and Gilda agree, although with this image right here for Don and Gilda, it's like, ooh, they were really shaken up about it. And we see Violet here as well. We see her going, Gracefield sure was a scary place. Oh, Violet, you have no idea how scary that place was. May I remind everyone of this image? Yeah, I am never going to get over that image. Like I said, it boggles my mind that this could be in the first chapter of a Shonen Jump series. That, may I remind you, Death Note didn't even do this. Death Note didn't do this. Just shows just how much risks Shonen Jump are willing to take at this moment in time when we can have something like this. But anyway, Ray and Emma are of course sceptical about the whole book and all the maps because, as they state, that the geography of the area could not be relied because it might have changed over the past few years when this book was actually written, and they actually don't know if they're in demon or friendly territory. They don't know about that, and Ray says that they cannot meet with the demons and they have to keep away from it as much as possible, which is a great strategy to have because if they get involved in the demons, then possibly one of them could die, and they don't want to get involved in any of that until they reach their destination. But of course, they can never get a break, and they are in demon territory at the moment. I mean, they're always in demon territory, but in more demon territory than they are. So Ray suggests to them that make sure you're hidden. Don't make sure that they're there. That you're in their presence, and if you are in their presence, shoot them without any hesitation. And we see that Emma just gets her bow and just shoots the demon, which is a callback to when her, Ray and Hugo were first in the forest and she actually shot the demon in the eye. As we see right here, after Emma shot the demon, Dawn and Gilda are like, whoa, awesome. But then we see that Emma is a bit distraught about it because, again, this goes back to when she was training with Songju and how she's very, very much apopexed about taking life, even though she knows it's the right thing to do at this moment in time to save everyone, but she's still very much in doubt about it. And we see her face right here. We see her face is full of all these emotions, which again, this goes back to a video that I saw about Super Eye Patch Wolf, Super Eye Patch Wolf's video about the current state of Shonen Jump and how he's very dismissive about the characters in Shonen Jump and how they're not Shonen Jump, the characters in the Promised Neverland and how they're very bland or flat, as he puts it, which he doesn't have much love for the series, not as much as I do, and I can understand that. This series is not for everyone, but to call the characters flat when we've seen that Emma is not one of the most blandest characters, she's actually one of the most complex and compelling protagonist that we've ever seen in Shonen Jump, how she has these different emotions and how it's not just like one emotion for a while and then another emotion, and she has multiple emotions bouncing all over the place, and even though she knows that she has to kill, she doesn't like killing, and that just plays with her mind. And for a 12-year-old to have these kind of emotions and still come out with a smile on her face at the end of it just shows just how much complex, how much strong of a character that she is then compared to some of the other protagonists that we've had in Shonen Jump. They go on to say that the worst type of demons are the ones that the intelligent ones, the ones that are able to be humanoid demons and stand on 2 feet, and they want to avoid as much interaction with towns and cities as they possibly can, which again does go a callback to how strong Lewis was and how much of a threat he actually was to take down. And that's what I like about it, like how they're not forgetting, like, even though we can get past these more lesser intelligent demons, we still have the intelligent demons to contend with and how much of a threat they can actually be. They state that their goal is D528143, and then Emma is stunned as well as the other kids, as we see them right here, as we cut to them arriving in. Hang on a minute, what was the name? Kufiti Delia. I can't pronounce that name, but it's right here. It's this one right here. We see them arrive in this like Stonehenge type Colosseum type area, and that's where the chapter ends, and we see the light, and we see the key to the secrets of this world, and that's where the chapter ends. So this was a really informative chapter, as all the others. This series is a very informative series. There's a lot of dialogue. With this series, when I've been getting the volumes, which I'll be putting up volumes up here at some point, or maybe on this shelf here, if I can get all this whatchamacallit, all this tools off this shelf, I can actually put my volumes up there in the background to make it more presentable rather than all the tools at the back. But that's something for later. I might actually get that when I have Volume 10, so that'll have a good row, because Volume 10 I think will include the fight with Lewis, which I really want to wait until I get that volume so I can read that again, which is exciting. I can actually hold that in my hand, because it has one of my favourite images, like one of my favourite Tonkawan volume covers, with Emma and the shadows of all the demons in Goldie Pond just facing her. That's what I love about that volume. But anyway, this chapter really informative. We've got some insight into Phil, of where he is at the moment. We got some more of Andrew, which I'm looking forward to. I hope he's not a disappointment. And also we found out like what had happened after Gracefield had been destroyed pretty much. And we see that the kids have arrived at their destination, and this is going back as well into an image that was right here where they received that phone call. I reckon that person, I don't know if I mentioned this in the Songju and Musica video, but I reckon that is Songju. I reckon that Songju and Musica are going to reappear in the story and be allies or villains, or we don't know where the motives are truly going to lie, but we'll just have to wait and see. But I feel like that person is, if it's not Songju, then it is James Lothario, William Minerva, Peter's brother. It's either going to be one of those two, or it could possibly be Andrew. We don't know yet because we never saw their face, but I just feel like that cloak looks very similar to what Songju was wearing, but we'll just have to wait and see. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know, and I'll see you guys next time for chapter 101. But for right now, I have to deal with a certain person in my body. Oh, come on. I've been busy. You can come out when you get your powers back. Okay.